What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Revival. My name is JJ, and today we're talking about Star Ocean, the second story, R. Alright, so as you can see, I am not alone. I am here with my longtime friend, Matt, who has been mentioned a couple of times on the channel before. I don't think he's never actually been on here before. You're on TFN.
No, I was on the Frozen North a couple of times, yeah.
Yeah, but not on here. We have like a long history of just having the same interests, very much into like RPGs and stuff like that. And I would say like probably 80% of the time it was me introducing him to games. Whereas this is one of the occasions where he actually introduced me to a new one, and that was Star Ocean, the second story on PlayStation 1. However, before we start talking about that, I want to just clarify one thing and maybe, I don't know, get a public apology. Those of you who have seen some of my videos in the past might recollect a video I did on some strategy guides. And I mentioned a friend of mine who destroyed them.
Oh no. Oh no. What are you doing to me? Wait. Oh no. Okay. You can't even find that anymore.
Thankfully, a really good person, Alex, thank you so much, buddy, sent me an updated and new version of this. This is my original one, the one that somebody took to school with them.
I did.
For some unknown reason, and it came back looking like this.
The unknown reason was I was a child and stupid. Much like now, but at least I don't have the excuse anymore.
There's tape on the edge. You can see that.
I didn't do that.
I put the tape on there because it was not on it.
Yeah, it was
connected-wise.
It's kind of just in pieces. Yeah. That one in particular is worse than you know.
This one hurts.
Yeah, I know. The reason that it should hurt more is the fact that I did all of that. But you'll notice that the back end of the guide isn't as screwed up because I didn't actually finish the game at the time. I had to go back and finish that game years later when I was the proper age to be able to handle it. So,
it's fine.
I don't know exactly what form of apology you want, but I guess I'll give you a one in Japanese. Gomen no sai.
I just hope you are living a happy and comfortable life.
Yeah, and I hope that the times that I've been mentioned on here has been just flourishing with positivity. Like
be the bigger person.
Yeah,
on this.
We need that positivity going around.
Anyway,
Star Ocean 2, yeah, like the things that I have said over the years that have been correct. Let's focus on those.
Like I said, we would go back and forth with RPGs. I think the first big one that we connected on was Final Fantasy VII. You had played 4 and 6, or 3 and 2, just through Super Nintendo because I had those growing up. And
I ruined your saves on those too.
Just on 6. He got really excited and like ran across the room and kicked out the cord while I was grinding for experience. I lost a lot, but I don't really begrudge you for that because you actually sat down and got me all my levels back and everything, and I did. Yeah, so
I did.
That one's fine.
I was punished by playing a game.
Yeah. But so it kind of went from there, and then I don't even remember like how it happened, but I remember you just said you were playing this game, Star Ocean 2, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And I came over to your guys' place, and I was friends with your brother first,
right.
And through him I met you, and then, you introduced me to Star Ocean 2, and I was like, how did I not see this?
It wasn't advertised anywhere, and you can see by the box cover, like, you don't know what the heck that game's about, like,
right? Yeah, it's man. I was blown away by how good it looked, how much I enjoyed the world map music, and eventually the music in general in the game. But I really, really fell in love with it super quick. As soon as I saw you playing it, I was like, I gotta get it. And I did.
It became a classic right away for me. I was kind of just blown away at the difference in style that Enix at the time was able to put out there. Like the only RPGs that I really had a perspective for were the Final Fantasy series, and at the time that was mostly just 7 and 8, I think. I don't even know if 8 was out. But yeah, it was something a lot different. It had a little bit more of like an anime quality to it, and I was just starting to get into that kind of stuff in the first place. So, what a way to open the can of worms to start with Star Ocean 2. It was very mind opening. It was great. Normally,
I would like start with the first game if I could, but I didn't even get a chance to play the first one until many years down the line on the PSP. It was a long time before I even got that, and I think that kind of contributed to me not hearing about this, because if I hear 2 of something, I typically don't think about it much. So I couldn't tell you if I even heard of this before you mentioned it, but I know that I don't remember anything prior to that.
Yeah, and back then, like, I just had the assumption that if the game didn't make it through localization and actually get to America, it was just bad. So I didn't even care about not getting Star Ocean. I just assumed that, like, oh, well, the whole country of Japan is just, very embarrassed by this game. That's why they won't send it to us. That was my 12, 13-year-old mindset at the time.
Oh, man. We got so much that was so good.
Yeah.
We didn't get so much that was so good. I recently played through Live Alive, and I freaking loved it. I'm so sad we didn't get that sooner, because it was wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of what we're here to talk about today. I figured with the remake that came out, the Second Story R, I was like, I kind of want to talk about this game, and I knew exactly who I should have to talk about it with, because you've played this, not this version, but I mean Star Ocean 2 countless times at this point.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how many, but I'm pretty sure that I've done every combination of things there are to do in the original game.
Wow.
I doubt that there's any scenes that I haven't seen. Character, like, party composition.
Yeah.
Because you can recruit different teammates depending on your actions that you do in the game. So... And
they, like, with future iterations that came out, like, I know the PSP version, they added Welch as a playable character, and they kept her in for this, which I really, really appreciate, whether she's a great character or not, whatever, but the fact that they made that change and kept it in this version, because they didn't do that with, like, the pixel remasters for Final Fantasy, which was frustrating.
Yeah, so you're right. That is kind of strange.
I'm glad they did that with this. Regardless of what it is, I think it's cool, because anything that adds more and doesn't take away is always welcome, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll talk about Welch a little bit further on down the line here. I got some things to say about Welch.
So, basically, I think we're just going to kind of treat this like a free-form review. We're going to talk about what we liked about it, do some pros, and then look at maybe some cons, what we didn't like about it, and then kind of just, I think, even right off the bat, you can tell by how much we love it. We recommend playing it, but I think there might be some discussion to be had about which version we recommend to play, so we'll hit on that at the end as well. So, through this playthrough, you played through, there's 2 paths you can take. You can play through as Claude, or in the anime, Claude, and Reyna.
Thank God that the translation for this game does Claude and not Claude.
For the longest time, because of your Midwest accent, when I first moved here from Jersey, and the way you pronounced it was Claude.
Claude.
And so I thought his name was literally spelled C-L-O-D, like when he first was telling me about it. And I'm like, they named me a Claude? A clod of dirt? But I was just dumb. So you played through as Claude, I played through as Reyna, because I had not... I've beaten the game one time, and it was as Claude. And this time I wanted to play through the other path. I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful story. It was great to get back into the world and revisit it. I did control Claude the whole time, even though I played through as Reyna, just because I prefer to be... With this kind of action combat, I prefer to be on the front line, just whacking stuff with a sword, while my other characters just blast with, spells and ranged attacks and whatnot.
Sure.
Which you would probably be better authority on this. When it comes to the magic, I remember in the original game on the PS1, the magic was kind of iffy. It wasn't great. It took a long time to cast. It wasn't as powerful as some of the later like physical attacks you could get. It just didn't seem to like hold its weight as much as the melee characters.
You're pretty much correct. The big uses for magic in like the original, at least for like some of the harder fights later on in the game, you literally used it just to have like disruption of the current combat, because sometimes you just wouldn't be able to get by somebody's guard, or someone was like doing a combo on you, and you needed Celine to like cast Explosion or Southern Cross, or something like that that actually like stops the battlefield and like freezes things and then just does automatic damage, and it puts the enemy into that like not a dazed state where they have like the spinning stars, but they've in that I've been hit state, and just for a fraction of a second it just lets you reset and allows you to kind of reestablish your own offensive combos onto bosses and stuff. So that's what it ended up being a little bit more strategic about it. But for most of the game, in both versions, honestly, like the difficulty just isn't really there to support magic acting in that in only that manner. So I'm glad that it kind of got a fresh update in the new one. It's a little bit more useful.
So overall, like, what kind of positives did you see in this new version?
Oh man, there's a bunch of them. Let's start with this. I just want to start with like the presentation. When you start the game, yes, the game is kind of dull from Claude's point of view, at least when you're before you actually meet Reyna. It's long story short, like you get teleported to another planet, right?
Yep.
And that whole sequence with Claude was giving me a little bit of cringe. I was like, oh boy, because like the voice acting is very, very phoned in with all of the Federation officers that are around you when you're being introduced to Claude. Sure. But Claude and Reyna's voice actors are top notch. I thought it was fun. They're fantastic. So when they finally meet in the forest, like things really take off, and then you go through the forest, and then you come to like the top of this hill, and you see the first town of Arlia, and you hear like the music of Arlia like kick in, and the camera is placed on rails that follows you down, and you can see the flowing grass around your character, and you can see the river, and you can see the turning the turbines of the water wheels. Yeah, the water wheel, and just. They did this on purpose. Like, they made it a long sequence of you running down this hill towards the town because they wanted you to understand the presentation of the environments in this game are very impressive.
It's gorgeous.
It is incredibly gorgeous game. And throughout the game, a big takeaway that I got from this remake is that please have RPGs put the camera on rails again. Like, let us enjoy the environments that we're in. There are so many games that I feel that get watered down because the camera is either like over the shoulder of your character or just like follows your character and you can look from every angle, and it's impossible to present like just the true artistic expression of the area. Like it just doesn't have the explorative qualities for me. I mean, to have the camera be that way.
I guess the counter to that would be if you have a free camera, you could just move it to make it look like that. Like you just do a slow pan with your camera with your character right there.
Yeah, but like you have to remember that like
I get what you're saying.
The RPGs are primarily their primary focus is to try to tell a story, and I think that the visual presentation of these environments is part of that storytelling. Sure. So I feel like that a lot of games have kind of lost that because people are just much more in the mindset of having these like grand, expansive areas that just kind of look overwhelming, and they end up being populated with nothing really fascinating to look at. So in this particular case, it's kind of a less is more argument that I got from this. and it turns itself on its head later on, because there are some dungeons where the camera just follows your character from like the top down, like when you're in a couple of like cave dungeons, and it loses that X factor of the environment presentation when it does that. For me, I did not feel that those parts of the game were as strong in their explorative qualities because of that. So that's the first thing that I think really popped out at me as like a huge improvement, was the presentation of the game from an artistic perspective. I guess talk about the gameplay. My God,
I really like the additions to the world map and the quest trackers, being able to see where things are, where to go. Some people might look at that and say like, well, it's hand-holding, you know, it was different back in the day, blah, blah, blah. You know what? In my opinion, it's better. I love it. It's more friendly. It's more welcoming to new players. I love having features that are going to get new players in, which I realize the irony in saying that because I have issues with Final Fantasy VII Remake, which did a whole bunch of stuff to bring in new players. I get that. But I think in this case, they are so true to the original, but making these small little tweaks that are just user-friendly to where you can play this game and pretty much get that same feel from the original, in my opinion at least.
Ooh boy. Okay. Challenge flag.
Alright, fair enough.
Alright, going with my original argument of like the artistic presentation of the game, I feel that the mini-map being available immediately before you've explored the place is a detriment to that in particular, because I found myself at times when I'm like wanting to advance the story, instead of me looking at the screen, I'm looking at the mini-map instead of enjoying the environment that I'm in, enjoying this incredible art that's on display. And I personally don't like that. So I was actually going to give that like a negative, but you're saying that it's a positive. Ooh boy.
Yeah,
okay.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, minimap I think is great to have like after a place is explored, but I do think that I would prefer for that minimap to not actually be there, especially in the dungeons.
Turn it off
right away. I did do that.
Well done. That's what I'm saying. These little tweaks that make it more accessible for people. It's not something that's required. It doesn't have to be there. Plus, how long are you going to be spending? Are you literally staring at the mini map while you're playing and like moving around on the mini map?
Yeah, I'm being a snobbish gamer and doing my thumb in my nose at people on that one. Okay.
Oh boy.
I do appreciate the teleport system, being able to go back and forth between places, and just these minor things that they included to allow you to make sure that you just don't miss anything. Like they actually have private actions listed. They'll put a little hourglass next to it if it's like on if it's something that you need to do like now before you advance the story.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you run a risk of like missing it.
Showing you where the private actions are?
Yeah, like
which is really nice.
Those are really, really nice.
The original did not have that. What about wasn't the original game random encounters?
Yeah, it was completely random encounters.
Yeah, this one's not. You can see enemies on the battlefield. Whereas I don't care about random encounters, I actually enjoy it. This, I know most people I think would prefer, because you can see them out on the field. It's also really handy because you can get chains and you can like get like 3, 4, 5 battles in a row and just get a ton of experience for doing that. So it's way easier to level up now. It's just, they really, in my opinion, took the time to go through and make sure that you could focus on the story without having to get bogged down by like grinding and too much like exploration that isn't going to lead you anywhere, and that kind of thing, which I get, flies in the face of what you're saying about appreciating the art style and all that stuff, and I think there's absolutely something to be said for that. But I think this day and age, with how impatient people are, and how it's just like most of our games nowadays have things that are just handed to us, and I think you kind of have to walk that line, and I think this game does that very well, in regards to being a remake from something that came from a time period that doesn't do that.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
I think that from the very beginning, since like my falling in love with Final Fantasy VII, like I believe wholeheartedly in the player being in as much control of the pacing of gameplay as possible, of progression. When you're done with random encounters and you want to advance the story, you should be able to do that pretty quick. And Star Ocean 2 had, the remake has this fantastic, as far as I'm aware, it's a new system called Bodyguard. Did you use this thing at all? It's a super specialty. It makes it to where, like, once you out-level the enemies, and they appear as green,
it's great.
one of your party members will just walk up to them, slap it in the face, and it'll disappear, and you just get the experience. Just like that. You don't actually have to actually fight. It's fantastic. I love it.
It's like if you played Earthbound, when you get, like, you attack something that's way lower level than you, you just automatically get the victory. It's like that. But in this one, it's actually, there's a cool visual component because you see your party members literally like surrounding you and going and attacking them, then running back to you again, and then going out again. They see more and then coming back. It's actually really cool.
Yeah, it's great. I found myself sometimes in like a dungeon when I was wanting to advance the story, but I didn't want to miss one of the monsters that appeared. I want that experience. I do circles around it, like being like, okay, one of my party members will attack any second now, and then they wouldn't. I'd be like, I don't really feel like fighting it, so I just skipped it. But yeah, it was a ton of fun. I love that part. What's the next thing that we should talk about? I want to talk about crafting a little bit.
Sure.
In the original game, I think that a lot of earlier RPGs did this as well. Like, it's so cryptic. Like, it's a lot of trial and error. It was almost impossible to do anything in a game like Star Ocean 2 without the strategy guide, because you just had no idea what combinations were in there at all. So, like, I remember getting the ultimate weapon for Claude through the customize ability fairly early on, but because of a strategy guide. But in this game, I didn't have to look up anything for any character, and I was just able to just navigate it with what it gave me. It gave me a list. It showed me that, like, hey, if you use this sword, and then you have a list of gems that you can combine it with and you can customize it with, and each gem will show you, like, a list of, like, possibilities that you could actually make. And they're not listed, like, what their names are, so you have to discover them, but you know how many there are.
Yeah.
Which is huge. So, there is a detriment behind it, though. I do think that resources, especially money, is a little bit too easy to get in this game. But that's kind of a double-edged sword. Because I sat in the town of Salva, which is like the second town in the game, for probably like 5 hours, and just got like everything. Like for every character that I had. Because there's nothing that stopped me. Like, I could just make a sword and sell it for like $2,000. And full. And the cost of the equipment that I could just buy infinite of was only $500. So, like, I'm making a $1,500 profit on every sword that I make, and I can make 10 at a time.
Yeah.
With one button push. So it's like, okay, well, I got infinite money.
Just to be clear, though, you don't have to do that. Like,
no,
it's like I said, this is so user friendly, and so, like, I know a lot of people's hang-ups on going back and playing older RPGs is the fact that a lot of them are very grindy. Like, this year, I'm going to be playing 7th Saga on Super Nintendo. And that is one of the grindiest games out there, period. And I am, like, dreading that. And I love grinding in those games, but man, that, from what I understand, it's insane. A little bit I played from it, it is. But this game does so much to help alleviate that and make it so much more friendly. It can be challenging. I was a little conflicted because I saw I watched a few YouTube reviews from other creators, and some people said this game's brutally hard. It's crazy hard. I don't even understand how anybody can get through it. I played through it on the easiest difficulty. It's insanely difficult. And then I would see somebody else being like, "This game's so easy. It's ridiculous. Just play it on the hardest difficulty. It's fine. It's like stupid easy. I wish they would have made it a little more challenging." I played it, and I had experiences with both. I don't know if this was your experience, but I would literally, like, fly through certain dungeons, and then all of a sudden I have one encounter with some new enemy that came up that just wrecked me out of nowhere. And it was just kind of like, where the hell did that come from? Like, it's just crazy.
Happened once. The witches. The first time that you encounter witches, I think that they're in the...
Especially if you get like 3 at a time.
They're in the Symbology Forest. at the the village of
I know what
Mars.
you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty early on in the game. You've got only a few people, and when they appear, they cast some spell. I don't remember the name of it, but it does like this wide AOE, and it's really hard to dodge. And if it hits you like 6 times, and it typically just kills you. So like basically, you're just hoping that it doesn't hit everybody,
Right.
so that you can immediately just get into your inventory and use one of your resurrection elixir things that you've got. Which I had all 20 of because, again, I'm a degenerate gamer. And I did that whole crafting grinding thing. But I enjoy that kind of stuff. I played the game on Universe mode, so the difficulty matched my style of degeneracy.
What's the difficulty that unlocks at the end?
I didn't even know there is one.
I thought Universe was the one that unlocks after you beat it on normal or Galaxy.
I don't know if anything unlocks, but I had the ability to switch it to Universe mode. I started it on the middle setting, which I think is Galaxy, and I found that it was just way too easy, and I knew that I was going to get bored. So I switched it to Universe mode, and just haven't turned it off. I probably can if I really want to, but I didn't, because I felt like that was cheating. So I decided not
I
to.
played it on the easiest difficulty because I just wanted to get through it.
Yeah. Speaking of like challenging stuff, though, they have a new feature. As far as I'm aware, I don't think that this was in the PSP remake. They had these optional encounters that are on the world map that are like big, like fiery opponents that like. I don't think that you're meant to actually encounter them, even if you can get to them.
Yeah,
until
they're
the
like
very
world
end
bosses.
of the game.
Yeah.
On Universe mode, I was not able to do anything to these people. And again, being a degenerate gamer, I had I'm pretty sure the best equipment in the game.
You're meant to either
at
come
the
back
time.
in New Game Plus or just do it at the end when you can revisit everything.
So, me being a perfectionist, this is like a minor complaint. I wish that there would have been a way for me to defeat those opponents when I was able to get to them. Because you can't get to them all right away, but if you use like the super specialty, come on, bunny. You summon a bunny, and it allows you to just traverse any landmass. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's a mountain. Okay, I'm going over it. And this is basically the way that you can explore the entirety of the world map, which is it's got quite a tune to it, and it kind of takes away some of the grandioseness of.
It's a little goofy.
Yeah. But I was able to get to some of these encounters, and like one of them was like this giant mech, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna kick this guy's ass." And I go up to him, I'm literally doing 0 damage, and he hits me once for 9,999. I'm like, "Oh,
about that,
about that."
Yeah, no, it was crazy.
So I haven't gone back to actually beat these things yet, but I am curious of exactly what is required to defeat those opponents. So I'm gonna keep going.
High level, I assume. Well, so since we've kind of started to move into the cons territory, you mentioned Welch. What's your hang up? Because I didn't recruit her. You did.
She doesn't say anything in any scene beyond her introduction and her own private actions. She seems to be just a completely separate entity.
She wasn't in the original, and they're just adding her in because she is like Star Ocean's Sid in Final Fantasy.
I want to speak with the manager on this one. I want to. I have a question, and it might have an answer. Why is Welch a perceived popular character? I'm very confused. She uses a poking stick?
I don't necessarily know that it's that she's popular. It's that she's just a repeating character. So everybody just recognizes her.
Yeah, I just found it just kind of strange that like you can have not necessarily romance, but you have relationship statuses between all your characters, and it's like, okay, well, Welch also has these, but I don't ever see a single feedback from the game on this beyond just the main character, whoever the main character is. And I was like, I'm not sure that I like that. Unlike, like, with my playthrough, I recruited Ashton and Priestess, and those two, you can get those two to have kind of romantic feelings.
You're saying she just feels shoehorned in.
Yeah, and I don't know where she's from.
Sure.
I don't understand like where it just is a little bit. I hate to use the term because it's so like overplayed, but it kind of is immersion breaking a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't understand why she was there.
Yeah.
And she's not particularly good.
I have heard that. Yeah.
She has one use that I think is decent. Star Ocean 2, the remake, has this assault thing where you can press one of your directional buttons and it'll summon a character that's outside your main 4 party, and it'll do like one attack, and then they'll leave, and then they'll like recharge.
You can actually use characters from other Star Ocean games with that, which is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. Like you can.
It's like a summon.
Yeah, like Fate. I have Fate from Star Ocean 3.
Yeah.
I don't remember the girl's name from the Star Ocean 4.
I don't remember all their names, but I had a handful of them.
Yeah, and then you can get the character from Star Ocean 1, which is pretty cool too. So I was very happy with that, but like she has a late special ability that's more break heavy for breaking shields, which is just your favorite mechanic in the world is breaking through shields so that you can do real damage.
So dumb.
Yeah, someone at Square Enix thinks it's the most genius mechanic ever created.
I also hate stagger.
It's a similar thing, right? Like,
ugh.
yeah, the stagger mechanic is almost in this game as well. But I was enjoying it for the most part, but sometimes, man, it just takes way too long.
So, if you were to recommend a version for people to try out of the, I don't know, have you played the PSP version?
No, I actually never did.
So then out of these two, the original and this new remake, which would you recommend people try now?
I mean, I can't not recommend the remake. The remake is so good. There's nothing... There is nothing in the remake that is offensive.
There's some things you would have done differently, but it's not like you're not looking at it going like, this ruins the whole thing for me.
No. There's a few scenes where the voice acting is more of a detriment than it is a plus. This is something that you probably wasn't able to see.
Funny enough, on these kinds of games, that especially when it comes to remakes and stuff like that, when it's very text heavy, because that's how the original games were, I tend to not even let them finish because I read way faster than they speak in a lot of cases. So I'm usually just hitting the button, which for people who love voice acting, I realize that's a crime. But I'm used to reading, and so I just do it that way. Unless it's like obviously like a big epic cutscene or something like that, then obviously I don't skip it. But yeah, for the most part, rather than hearing every line of dialogue, if I can make it move a little faster by clicking it, I will do that.
Yeah, like there's a couple of scenes in there that are really, really good. Like any scene that has Claude and Raina like interacting with each other, I was like, damn, this is really, really good voice acting.
Yeah.
But then there's a character that you couldn't recruit in your particular playthrough, Leon.
Right.
Leon's voice actor is tragic.
He's still in the game, so I heard it, but
but you didn't get to see the scene that I saw. There's a part where like everyone gets separated, and you guys kind of like wash up on a beach, and Claude runs into Leon, and Leon gets very, very upset, and it's supposed to have like a very emotional scene, and no, it's just not working on that one. That one got phoned in. But again, it's not offensive. And honestly, the voice acting really helped with the antagonists for me. I felt that the antagonists were like very dry and just super unmemorable my first playthrough. And it was like, if I had to choose a weakness of the original game, it would have been that.
Yeah.
But the antagonists in this version with the voice acting and with the art portraits, oh my god. Like, these characters are going to be super memorable to me now. So,
cool.
There it is.
I think it's pretty clear. We definitely recommend the newer one. So, if you are curious about like PlayStation 1 era RPGs, JRPGs, I should say, and you have heard about this, haven't heard about it, this is just an all-around recommendation. It's not turn-based combat; it's action combat, but you do go into a battle screen, so. It's kind of just a nice, like, especially with the remake, it's a nice blend of new and old and just user friendliness that I think just is wonderful. And I will absolutely eventually play through it again, going through the other route as Claude, because I really enjoyed my playthrough as Reyna. So,
if this is the standard for RPG remakes that we've got coming for the next few years,
Yep.
RPG lovers are in for a good time.
For sure. Well, Matt, thanks for hanging out, talking some Star Ocean with me. I don't get a lot of opportunities to do that because I don't have a lot of friends who are into Star Ocean as much as I am.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. This is the best game in the series, hands down. You introduced it to me, so it was a no-brainer. Yeah, so thanks again for hanging out, and we'll have you back at some point. Talk about something else. And
cool.
Everybody else, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You know the drill. Tell us what you think about Star Ocean. Tell us if you have played the remake and what you think about it, whether you agree, disagree, all that stuff. And as always, keep on gaming.